Holy smokes, guys. Have you seen this new 4K satellite imagery in the Smart Fishing Spots app? It is next level. It makes Google satellite maps look like a complete joke. I can't even use them anymore after seeing this. It's probably why some of these companies are charging hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get this same access to be able to see your fishing spots in this 4K level. It lets you see all kinds of new hidden areas, new potholes, new seagrass, new oyster bars, stuff that you would never ever see on a normal Google satellite map. The best news is with us, it's completely complimentary. It's completely free for our members. So if you're a current Insider member, go check this out. It's in the toggle area where you'll now be able to see a little place where you can see obviously oyster bars, seagrass, you've got Bing, Google, and now you've got this 4K imagery. And if you're not a member, what the heck are you waiting on? Someone to grab you by the hand and show you exactly where to find new fishing spots every single week, because that's what we do. Come and join us. It's saltstrong.com and the Insider Club. 35,000 plus members and new ones joining every single hour. See you inside.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Hello, Salt Strong Nation. Joe Simons, like diamonds, back again. We're talking about the ultimate performance inshore saltwater fishing rod, the Slot Machine. That is the name. We are finally revealing, unveiling, and exposing the details of this Mudhole / Salt Strong custom rod. We've been working on this for over 18 months. Luke, if you don't mind showing this is just some of the different renditions we've been through.
These are some of the iterations. Sorry, there's some behind the others, but yeah, we've gone through a ton of different rods because we want to make sure if we're gonna do it, we want to make sure that it's legit. It's actually based on performance, and it's specific for inshore saltwater anglers going after redfish, sea trout, snook, flounder, like up in the shallows with kind of a little bit lighter line. We'll have a different rod for the stronger lines. This is going to be the ultimate rod for consistently catching fish with lures throughout all seasons. And we finally have one that is continually outshined all the others in both casting contests. Justin has some cool stories with catching some personal bests already with this latest version. So we have it. It is really impressive, and we're really excited to launch it.
Yep. And this is a high-end performance rod. And here's what that means. That means this is not for everybody. And let me just, paint a picture here. If you're brand new to inshore saltwater fishing, you should not buy this. It's going to be a pretty expensive rod. I mean, this is the kind of rod that you see from the G Loomises. I mean, this is high-end, really high modulus. I mean, everything about it is as high-end as we could get. It is the ultimate performance rod. This is for someone who is a good fisherman who wants to take their game to the next level, or just a great angler already and really likes to have the best stuff. If you're a newbie, I would say get TFO all day long, just personally. The bad news is Justin's going to talk about here in a little bit about these higher moduluses. When you start getting into really nice rods, the bad news is they can break easier, right? This is not something you're going to give your kids. That doesn't mean it's going to break, but it does mean if you're slapping it on docks or on boats or dropping it or letting it clank all over the back of your truck if you're driving 80 miles an hour on the highway, this is not the rod that you're going to let just hang out the side of your window and hope and praise nothing hits it. This is something, I mean, it's just like if you get a nice car, right? If you get a brand new truck or a nice car, you don't want to get dents and mess it up. This is that type of rod. So I want to set the stage there that we don't want every one of our members buying it. We know we have a lot of members that do want this and need it, and we'll see massive improvement in their casting and even hook setting. This can help you catch more fish. But if you are a brand new angler, I would say do not buy this. So all that being said, Justin, I can tell you're giddy. You got one in your hands here, one of the demos. What you say, dude? Tell us about this rod and some of the specs.
What say you? And
it's called the Slot Machine, first and foremost. That is the name.
The Slot Machine rod, guaranteed to catch slots. This has been a privilege of a project to work on. It's just, I mean, for those of you that have watched any of the other podcasts or know me at all, I am a dork when it comes to rods. Like I am obsessed with.
Memer.
I mean, yeah, me, you know. But I mean, even when I remember talking to Matthew Cashin at ICAST, we got into talking about the molecular level of epoxies and different graphites. And anyways, this project and having it finally come to fruition is so awesome, guys. We've learned a lot working with Mudhole on this too, understanding different grades of graphites and understanding when it comes to performance, what do anglers really look for? You know, people, okay, I want a rod and reel to balance properly. I want that tip to jiggle just right. You know, what do fishermen do in the store? And then what do we really need? And how does that tie into every single inch aspect of this rod? We were incredibly meticulous. Like we tried to make sure that before this came to market, that we took into consideration everything, the weight, the backbone, the sensitivity, the guide placement is huge. And I feel like that's the biggest thing of this podcast is talking about guide ring size for your 3 reduction guides. We're going to go into that, the location of those 3 reduction guides, and figuring out which reel goes on which rod. We get that question all the time from, I mean, less than what? No less than a couple times a week from new members. I got this rod, what reel? I got this reel, what rod? And generally speaking, freshwater inshore rods, a reel from 2,500 up to 4,000 in size is appropriate. But when we're going to talk about maximizing casting distance and determining the diameter of the spool and how the line comes off the cone of that spool through these guides, how it makes contact with the guides or the blank, or how far apart they are, there's a science to it. And in talking to Mudhole and feeling and using a lot of different rods in the market, there's a lot of great rods by a lot of companies. They all catch fish. They all feel great and perform great. But the big question that people have is, what reel should I put on this rod? And what we learned working with Mudhole is that there is a sweet spot, and it's a pretty fine sweet spot to know certain reel spool sizes and the guide ring size and the placement, so that when you make a cast, you're going to have the maximum amount of casting distance because you have the least amount of friction. And the line's not going to hit the blank. The line's not going to go from this diameter to this diameter on your first reduction guide on the rod too quickly, causing a slowdown in momentum and potentially wind knots. So these were all fine things that I'm sure there are other manufacturers that incorporate this into their rods on the rack, but not everybody out there is going to grab a tape measure and measure every single guide and on the rod and know, like, man, this one is right for a 2,500 size reel, or this one's right for a bigger 3,000 size diameter spool. And we worked out the science for you because we've tested so many models and did a lot of casting tests and even looked at how the line's making its way through the guides and the blank and realized this is what we need. This is the recipe for, you know, the rod we finally came out with. So I'm going to hold this up. This, again, the slot machine rod. And look at that. That's sexy. I mean, just everything about this. It's, a rod that looks good. You would expect that in a high-end rod. And that's something big on me. I like matchy. I like simple, clean, you know, and streamlined look and feel. And Luke's come to appreciate that in time because I know he's like, yeah, I just want a rod that's good. Well, this rod is great. Not only does it perform great, it looks great. But let's start from, you know, a butt to tip analysis. I've kind of said that before.
He likes small butts and he cannot lie. Short butts.
It's growing on me slowly. So you see these 3 kind of rings here in the rod right there. So these are composite rings, not like the, you know, standard grade A cork that you would expect on a high-end rod. And we very strategically put them there at the butt section because I believe that if you took the weight of these higher density composite cork rings and you took a standard cork ring, this is twice the weight. We're talking about a matter of like 0.1 of an ounce, but that added extra weight was intentionally put here in the butt section so that when you pop a reel on there, it's going to better balance towards your rear end. So this isn't just beauty rings. This was intentionally put, and we made sure we knew the exact weight of all these rings so that it balances better with a reel. And then same as we work our way up into the reel seat itself, I think this is a Fuji TVS reel seat. So what it is you're going to have exposure to the blank itself. And even though this is a carbon fiber inlay, it not only protects the blank itself from any scratches or dents or dings, but that carbon fiber inlay is not going to impede the sensitivity when you're working your lure or you're getting a strike. You're going to feel that just as if you were making contact with the blank. So we thought about going with a direct blank, but a direct through blank, but this performs just as well, and it helps protect that area as well from scratches and dings and dents, and helps keep the rod looking sexy long term.
And while you're holding it, while you're reeling in, you can have your finger, there. So your fingers can feel that inlay, giving you a little bit more sensitivity there. Really, really cool.
Yeah, my palm, everybody holds a rod a little different, but my palm's there. My thumb is also on the left side of it, and then my foregrip, my forefingers on the front part of the rod. So I have multiple points of contact with the blank itself. So I'm going to feel everything. I'm going to feel it if they're looking at it, guys. But the reel seat itself, we did go with a double locking reel seat here. So you have your primary locking thread right there, and then you follow up with your secondary locking nut, and there's kind of a composite material in between the two so that it cushions and makes sure that it's firm. Because we believe if you have two, you have one, and if you have one, you have none. So instead of relying on just one threaded locking nut, we have two there on the bottom. And Luke, I want you to talk about this because this was a must-have for you. That hook keeper there at the bottom is something that's very important, and I've grown to appreciate it. There's a lot of different hook keepers out there, but Luke likes this teardrop hooked style hook keeper, and we put it on the left side so that when you go to cast, the line's never going to accidentally make contact with it. It's not going to get in the way for casting like some hook keepers have done on other rods, and it's perfect for weedless lures, right?
Yeah, so this is a game changer. If you're using soft plastics, especially weedless soft plastics, like I do, I now, if I get a rod that doesn't have a hooked keeper like that, I can't use it. It drives me crazy. It's so convenient. Or if I have it rigged weedless to secure it, I just simply thread that on there. So I'm doing this in front of the computer. But I just thread the hook, the shank of the hook into that keeper, and now this lure is on there. And this has a unique shape. I've never seen this shape before. And while at Mudhole, I was going through all their different items, and I noticed that. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is perfect!" So you can see it actually can be used both ways. You can thread the hook through this thick part of it, but again, my preference is just to slide it through, and then the fact that it's more narrow at the top, that hook sits right in there, and it fits in there much better than most others. Most others has like a regular U, where in this V shape, it just is more. It's just more convenient and helps out. So. I know that's a small little feature, but for those of us who throw a lot of soft plastics, that's a really, really big deal. And this is the best that I've ever tested and used.
And the placement's awesome too. And Luke, while you've got that, talk about, because I know a lot of people solved the butt section that Justin started with and said, "Hey, what about my cool split grip?" Luke, let's talk about the truth about the split grip. Yeah. Justin kind of hinted on it. It's a weight issue. And when you take that cork out and you just have the blank there, you've lost all that weight. Now you have an unbalanced rod. And most of these rod builders, like the pros, like the Mudholes, one of the biggest ones in the country, they would say that split grips they're really just there for looks. And many times can actually hurt the overall performance.
If you're
not all the time, but yes.
If you're going to a fashion show, split grips are great. They look cool, and you get some looks. But if you're going for performance, the full grip really is better, and it's in multiple ways. A lot of it is weight. Weight is a really big deal. We're talking about the balance of rod. In this rod, we set it up. Justin alluded to it. We set it up for specific reels. Most people who spend $500-$600 for custom rods, they do that because the rod is custom built for a particular reel so that the line can shoot through properly and so that the balance will end up proper. So we did this. We used actually reels from Daiwa and Shimano to test out both the weight, the balance of it, how does it balance out, and how do these guide placements allow the line to shoot out. So we have some of the most popular of the 2500 size reels, just to be specific, and we'll give a listing of the reels in particular. And we're talking about the lightweight reels. So this isn't for the big clunkers that cost, that don't cost very much. we're talking about, a high-end setup where you have a really nice rod and put a nice reel that's 9 ounces or less. So this is designed to handle lightweight reels, whereas most other rods are not set up that way. Most of the rod companies, they don't know what reel is going to be put on there, so they kind of make it bland. And it's very rare, just from the testing that we've done, it's very rare that a rod will actually match to some of the most common reels, which is kind of surprising. I think a lot of rod companies just don't really know, so they just kind of put a best guess and go with it. So all these sections on here were purposely added some more weight. We purposely had the full grip so that we can have weight proportional to where we need it. We obviously don't want to just add weight to add weight, but this is again, it's just weight on the butt so that the balance is right. And once that balance is right, the overall setup feels much lighter than anything else. Like actually using it, the fact that we have the weight on the background on the back, if you're doing like a rod tip up, double fish retrieve, it's just going to be much more comfortable, especially if you're fishing for a long period of time, making a lot of casts. So good, very important aspect of it.
Yeah. And we've tried, we should let everybody know, we've tried to intentionally add additional weight or take that weight out in different prototypes to find out what that sweet spot was. And the 3, composite rings in the butt seem to be that sweet spot to balance up with most reels. So we've tried at both ends of the spectrum, because we know a lightweight rod, any lightweight gear in general, is desirable by a lot of guys that want a high-end performance tuned setup. And having a heavier rod might allow for a little more weight, so you have a tip-up approach, but then you're kind of getting into a rod that could be over 6 ounces, and it might not be what people are looking for. And if you have too light of a rod that's feather light, ooh and ah, then it doesn't balance with any reel. It would even have a hard time balancing with like a ballistic or a Vanford or, those super lightweight, high composite reels. Those are, it's not even going to match up that well with them, even though you would think light and light go together. We found that about that 5 ounce spot was the key weight for this rod. It matched up with Fuegos and BGMQs and Saltistem Qs and the Certates and the Exists and so many, but of a particular diameter size on the spinning reels. Luke mentioned 2500s is really the sweet spot on them.
Yeah, and because a big issue that we saw after testing a bunch of different rods, obviously, again, we wanted to do this right if we're going to do it. So we put a lot of thought and research in it. And a lot of the other high-end rods that we're talking about, over $300 rods, most of them are designed to be as light as possible, right? Because how they're getting sold, obviously the makers of it, okay, how many sell as many as possible. They're going to be in a tackle store. They're not going to have a reel on it. It's going to be sitting there, and they want theirs to be lighter than anything else. And so what a lot of them do is they make this butt section, they make everything as light as possible, including the butt section. And what that results in is less comfort over time when you actually put a reel on it and you start using it, because this butt is way too light. Another reason I don't like split grips, this butt is going to be too light. Now this rod is super tip heavy, and you're fighting gravity the entire time you're using it. If it's tip heavy, you're literally fighting gravity the entire time that you're using all day long. Whereas when it's balanced, you now can hold it and you're not fighting gravity one way or the other. So it is, again, another small thing, but if you're especially using artificial lures and you're making a lot of casts, that these little small differences make into a really big impact. So again, those little small things are what we really took into account, which is why it took so stinking long. But I think the weight was worth it.
All right, Justin, keep going with the rest of this rod. Move up.
So I realized we didn't really dive into the specs of the rod. So the slot machine is going to be a 7.6 medium power fast action. And that is after all these different models we played with to determine what is a good baseline for inshore anglers for a medium power fast action. There's a lot of blanks out there. This is a blank intrinsic to us. You can't find this anywhere. Like, this is only going to be available in the slot machine rod. And we, play with a lot of different models to say, okay, that's too fast. Oh, that's too much of a noodle. What's that sweet spot of a fast action where it bends down in the rod, it loads lures properly, it unloads properly at the end of that cast so that you get the maximum distance. So it's an 8 to 15 pound class rod. And the lure rating, we were able to get a blank with a sweet spot of about 1/8 of an ounce up to a 1/2 ounce, which is, I think, further than what a lot of people offer in a medium powered rod. It tends to go up to about 3/8 or so. I see a lot of times on these medium or some medium light rods, from an 1/8 ounce to a 1/2 ounce, that's going to cover just about everything you're going to need for an inshore angler. If you're punching past a 1/2 ounce, you probably need to edge on more of a medium heavy power and a different designed rod. But we think that covers everything someone's going to need, from top water to twitch baits to weedless soft plastics to even little finesse rigs. If you're going to put on, a sixth of an ounce, pro shrooms and a little slam shady or a gold digger and pinch off the tail and bounce bottom, this is a great finesse rig as well. So I'd load that up and drop down to 6 or 8 pound braid and 15-pound leader, and I would enjoy using this rod for those applications as well.
Yep. And just so you guys know, we're working on another rod. This is the slot machine, and we're going to have one called the upper slot machine that is going to be a little bit more heavy duty. You could put a 4,000 on there and 20-pound braid and really beef it up. Just as an FYI, we're not going to talk about that on this podcast, but just so you guys know, this is not where we're stopping. This was just the beginning. It took us 18 months to get here. Now that we've done all this testing with Mudhole, we learned a ton, and now we can start replicating it with different style rods.
Yeah, because this was done for a specific purpose, and that is for the lighter tackle inshore saltwater. So whether from fishing for sheep's head with little small crab lures, where you need ultra precise cast and you need a quick, good hook set to get away from the pilings, works great. Even throwing a top water or even the big old slam shady bombers, sling it on the grass flats for schooling reds, this can handle it all. So this has been really, really good if you're using light line. If you're going up 20-pound line and up, then the second rod will be more for you. But for those light tackle fishermen who want to be able to feel the difference of a little pinfish tapping at their lure or a redfish hitting it to know whether to set the hook or not, this is what will help you do that. It is shocking how good the feel is. You can literally feel the little pinfish taps versus the even small trout thumps. Like it is but by far the most sensitive rod that I've used to date.
Right. So I want to talk about, we won't go too far into it, but the material and construction. The terminology thrown around in the industry of, high grade graphites or carbon fibers or composites, or is it standard, intermediate, or high modulus, or what's the million modulus, what's the tonnage graphite? There's so much jargon out there. But if you want to keep things simple, generally speaking, you have graphite or carbon fiber, whatever you want to call it, broken down into 3 stages: standard modulus, intermediate modulus, high modulus. Standard modulus is a good balance of durability to sensitivity, but it tends to be a little bit heavier in general, and it tends to be more affordable on a lot of rods out there in that 100-ish benchmark price point and below, or probably a standard modulus graphite construction. You bump up between that $100 to $200 range in general, you'll find some rods with an intermediate blend where there's different rolled sheets or flags of graphite that are put on rods. And intermediate is lighter in weight, it's increased in sensitivity, but it might not be as durable as standard. And then you jump into the high modulus, it's the lightest weight to sensitivity ratio, and it's not as durable as standard or intermediate. But honestly, we're not even talking about a couple % difference in terms of overall durability. People say that high modulus is brittle, and that's objectively true, but we're not talking about a 10 to 15% difference in strength here. It's really an objective difference that high modulus is lighter weight, more sensitive, and less durable, so to speak. But I've got my personal best redfish at over 40 something inches on, a power prawn on this rod. I've caught over 20 redfish in the past 2 months on this. My biggest trout over 25 inches this year on the slot machine. And I've had some pretty crazy maneuvers you guys will see on videos where I'm trying to lift the rod tip over top of other rods behind me in the kayak. I've had fish run underneath the kayak where I thought I was going to snap the tip. And I'm surprised. It just sings. Like it's a very well-made product. I'm super excited about this. It's exceeded a lot of my personal expectations on the water. But so that you guys kind of know the differences, we went with a blend of intermediate and high modulus so that we could get that sensitivity, to weight ratio, because we wanted to maintain a lightweight rod, not go too light, but also not have it be kind of heavy and clunky with standard modulus to where you're defeating the purpose of what this rod's meant to do. So there is a sweet spot to all of this. And we found that an intermediate and high modulus blend kind of offered us that balance of weight and sensitivity that we wanted out of this product.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of the custom rod builders, have a lot of business, because every rod is really done for a specific reason, and there's a lot of different styles of fishing. And again, this is specific. This is a way that you can get a custom rod, assuming you're targeting redfish, sea trout, snook, flounder, up in shallow water with 10-ish pound line. What is it, 8 to 15? So I've been using this even for triple tail. It's not just for those 4 species. It's great for triple tail. Really, anytime you need some kind of more finesse applications. For saltwater, obviously works freshwater too. But again, you'll have a custom performance set up for a fraction of the cost of going full custom. That's really the overall benefit, because we've selected the reels that fit it just right. We obviously have the lures and stuff too, and the line recommendations, just to make sure that you get just maximum performance. And Justin mentioned too before, but the guide spacing is a really big deal. And we took into account for a variety of different reels, how far up above the rod it sits and at what angle the reel shoots down towards the rod. And we set up the guides so that they have the most efficient flight of path possible, where they go directly through these first through guides. Most other rods, shockingly, don't do that. It blows my mind that even a lot of the high-end rods, they don't have that.
Talk about that. That's what Luke, talk about that a little bit more in depth, because it's something that someone could test right now with their own rod and reel setup. Talk about what it should do and what it shouldn't do, because we're going to do some tests on this.
Yeah, the flight of path should be from the reel, from the center of the spool of the reel, right? That's with the lines coiling around and shooting out. Yeah, what Justin's pointing out. From that point, and the angle of it should go directly through the rod, directly up the rod, going closer and closer to it, and then going through this first guide, hopefully without hitting it, right? Ideally, you go through the first 3 guides without touching it. That way you can have the best flight of path with the least amount of resistance, with that line having to coil around the guides. Most rod companies, this first guide is way too low. And what that does, that pulls the line from the reel down too quickly at too sharp an angle, and it's all going to be hitting that first reel. That's going to create wind knots, right? Because all those coils are getting hit by the tip of that spool, and then it's having to curve around. That's going to significantly increase wind knots. It's going to pull the line closer to the rod blank, which will increase the amount of rod slap you have. It's just not an efficient way to do it. And so the ideal way to get, but they didn't pair it to these reels that we're talking about. I don't know what reel they paired a lot of them with, but I couldn't figure out most of them. But again, this is custom for these reels in particular, and it has the perfect flight of path that just goes through, and actually goes through all 3 right down the middle. Really, really cool.
Yeah. So we call it like a static line test. And when we built these rods back in December, we went to Mudhole, took a class to build these rods. We did another podcast talking about it. And that's part of the process, is they take line through the guides on the reel that we intend on pairing with that rod, to make sure that the line, if we were to pinch the line from the reel, pinch it off the top center part of the spool and shoot it straight out, just we pull it tight, then it'll go through these 3 reduction guides right through the center. And you determine that by not only the diameter of the spool of the reel you're going with, but the diameter of the guide, how far away it is from the blank, and how far away it is from the reel itself. So those 3 reduction guides are really the thing that sets you up for success on that cast. And yeah, like Luke said, you don't want line slapping the blank. You don't want line constricting from the spool down to the diameter of the guide too quickly. And you don't want the guides too close to the blank either, because then you're going to slap the blank. There's a lot of things that we have to play with. And the type of guides we went with, these are actually Mudhole's in-house brands. They're CRB LZR guides, very similar to Fuji's KLH, which are a very low profile, slim ring design. The insert is, I can't remember what the material of the insert, I think it's a zirconium insert, but a lot of times you'll find Alkanite by Fuji, or SIC, silicon carbide, which are the higher end rings. And in terms of diameter, weight, and durability of the ring, this is comparable to SIC. So I know a lot of guys out there that go and hunt and shop and want to find and nitpick, well, this one has this particular frame and guide ring and this one has this type of graphite. These are all extremely high-end components. I remember talking with Buzz Butters, who's actually one of the, he's a, I don't know how many rods he's built, hundreds, if not thousands of rods in his lifetime, but he's one of the rod building coaches for this custom rod building class at Mudhole. And he's not involved in this project. I gave him the sample and I said, tell me what you think about this. And I showed it to him and he's like, this is really impressive. And he tested the tip. He checked all the guides and the placement and the reel seat. He's like, I really like the ergonomic design of this. I like the feel. And I'm just thoroughly impressed with, he's like, I know what components you're using on this rod, so I know how it's going to perform. And this is what I would build for like a $450 plus custom rod for somebody out there. So, to get that seal of approval from somebody who's built 1,000 plus custom rods that had no idea kind of what our venture was a good testament to say, all right, we're on the right path here to make a product that's going to blow everybody away. And everything about it, I can't say enough about it. I'm just that excited to be able to get these in everybody's hands. And when you fish with it, you'll understand that this is a next level.
Yeah. And our whole goal is to get $100 off whatever final price. We haven't completely finalized that, or the warranty. I know there's been some questions. Hey, and we're going to have a pretty sick warranty on this as well, and stand behind it. But $100 off, basically the exact amount, or a little bit more, because the Insider Club's only $97. But you would instantly be able to pay for your membership in just one purchase of a nice rod. That is the goal. And so we know it'll attract more people saying, all right, cool, I've justified the savings just from joining. And obviously, if you're renewing, you've literally paid for itself. We're going to give $100 off this rod when it comes out. Looking at, who knows? We don't want to say anything these days with supply chain, but we're hoping end of October, maybe November, trying to get this obviously done before Christmas time, because we know a lot of people want it. Same point, we're not going to rush it. This is all built here in the USA, which is really, really cool. But at the same point, it's taken forever to get all. It's easy to do one or two. It's really tough, to do 500 or 1,000, which is the batches that we're doing in that. And Justin's holding it up there, and also if you've handcrafted in the USA, baby. And on the flip side, this is going to be a Fish Strong. Which is our tackle store brand, and that's the new tackle store we're opening will be Fish Strong. So it's the Fish Strong brand. Slot Machine is the name of it, and we're going to be working on some other rods after we release this one. So it will be insiders only first. We're not going to open up to the public just yet. Just one more reason to join the Insider Club. You guys get served first as our members, and we're really, really stoked to do this. And we definitely have to do another individual video showing that test, right, Luke, of having a rod set up, and you guys will be shocked, because Luke had me do with some other rods. These are nice rods, by the way, like $200-300 plus rods that were not built the correct way based on the normal reels that we were using. I was like, whoa. I mean, right? As Luke mentioned, it's more wind knots. You're getting less distance. I mean, this is going to maximize how far you can cast. And we've led a few people who've been on our boat. We even met a few insiders out and about, and we had it make a cast with this real quick. And they're like, holy smokes. This thing it's performance. I mean, you will definitely feel the difference.
Yeah, it was built to perform and perform for this specific type of fishing. Inshore, going after inshore slams, particularly as with lures who are making a lot of casts, it's next level. It really is, really does make an impact. But again, you just have to take care of it. This is something that this is for people who are really serious about it. This is the next level for sure.
Yeah, never something I'd want in the back of a bed of a truck. Not something that I'd be wanting to bump into a fan or a door. That happens. But this is something you should be particular of. It should be, it's a weapon. It is a fine crafted tool, and should be treated with love and care and respect, because it's going to be an incredible rod on the water.
Yep. Cool. Anything else? I know we covered a lot of the main points that we've been hearing questions about.
Yeah, I would say just go to, we do have a listing for it on fishstrong.com, and there's an early notification list. So I would say the one thing to do if you're interested and you think it's a good fit is go to fishstrong.com, go to the rod section. You'll see it on there. And there's a notify me link on there. So it says notify me. And that way, as soon as they're in stock, you're going to get notification. So I would say that's the next step to take into account. But yeah, I think if you get it, you're going to love it. It really has been awesome. And it's been just a pleasure to fish with.
Yep. And as we said, $100 off if you're an insider member. Why pay full price when you can join the club, get all the benefits from smart fishing spots to all the courses, to all the on the water reports, to the now discounts on everything we have in the store, and save literally $100 right off the bat from every rod. And we're probably going to limit it to one. There's another question that came up just in the very beginning, because we're getting hundreds at a time, and we're getting them quick, but still we have 35,000 members. Well, we know a lot of people are going to want this, so we probably will put a limit of one to start, and then once we get them in and we can finally have a little bit of breathing room there of not sending them out the second they come in, then we'll probably open it up to get more. So stay tuned on that. Gentlemen, thank you. Justin, thank you for geeking out. If you guys don't know, Justin, before coming here to Salt Strong, was representing Star Rods for many years, and truly does know this stuff in and out, and really does get really excited by it. So it was very cool to have Justin a part of this whole journey. And with Mudhole, I mean, couldn't have picked a better partner. I mean, these are the people who are teaching, right, the rod builders of America. I mean, this is where the rod builders, like the best rod builders in America, are buying most of their stuff at Mudhole. I mean, they are the group that does this probably better than anybody. So it was really, really cool, and the whole team there has just been amazing to work with, and they love educating too, just like us. So it's been really, really neat.
Yeah, I'll say shout out to Todd Vivian, who's put a ton of work. Yeah, he's awesome. He's amazing. He taught me so much, and Justin already knew a lot of it. And Justin and Todd are all about the specs. I'm more about the feel. I just want to use it. But it was really, really fun project. Yeah, Todd, the whole team was great. And yeah, Justin, thank you too. Justin's the tech guy. He knows all the components, and just made sure that we had just the right stuff. And we saved money when needed, but we also didn't compromise performance every time we try to make it as affordable as possible. Just like everything we do, we want to make sure that you catch more fish and save money while doing so. And so this has the bare bones, everything based on performance and the best value possible.
Yep. So stay tuned. If you haven't joined the club, join now. Get on the list. That's at fishstrong.com is where you can get on the notification list. That's our tackle store for our members. And if you haven't joined, go to saltstrong.com where you can join the club right now today. So guys, thank you so much for all the love and support. Hit us up with questions. The best place is on the Salt Strong blog, which is the fishing tips section at saltstrong.com. You'll see this actual post. You might be there right now watching this or listening. Down to the bottom, you'll see a place to leave a question that'll come to us. We would love to hear from you, and thank you for all of your support. All of your love. It means a lot, and we'll talk to you on the next episode. Peace. We out.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul.